Hey everybody, I'm Catherine Sprung. I'm going to make molasses ginger cookies with a ginger tamarind buttercream. I doubt you've heard of that before because today's inspiration for that was from Atina Foods, their Inji Puli, which translate into ginger tamarind. So this is an herbal jam. It is very aromatic. It is very what you would think of as savory. And I spoke with one of their co-founders who mentioned that she had made a buttercream out of this Inji Puli and kind of blew my mind a little bit, and I knew that I had to try it. And when I did, I was so pleasantly surprised. It is incredible. It's amazing. The butter mixed with the spices here kind of cools that down a little bit, but you still get all that flavor. It's really, really nice. So I knew that I had to pair that with these molasses ginger cookies that I make that are so easy and delicious, and all those flavors would be awesome together. So let's get started. So we're gonna start out with our cookie base first. Since the buttercream is super easy to make, really quick too, we'll save that for the very last while our cookies are cooling down. So we're going to start by creaming our butter and sugar. So I've got 3/4 of a cup of room temperature butter. Sometimes, you know, it's cold butter, sometimes it's room temp, sometimes it's even melted. So depending on what you're making is really going to dictate what temperature your butter is going to be. So here we're going to use room temperature. So we've got that in. Then I have a combination of 1/2 of a cup of packed dark brown sugar. So packing it is really doing exactly that, smushing it into your measuring cup to make sure that you get all of that density in there. And then we have 1/4 of a cup of white granulated sugar. So that's going in. And I have a paddle attachment onto my mixer here. I think that that's the best for whipping sugar and butter to cream them together. We're gonna start that slow. And once the ingredients start to come together, then we can speed it up a little bit. You don't need to go full speed, but you will want to speed it up just a little bit. We're gonna let that whip for at least a couple of minutes. Okay, so what you want to do also is when you're mixing anything, creaming anything, adding more ingredients in, you always want to scrape down whatever's in the bowl just so that we make sure that everything is incorporated. Sometimes there are going to be things on the bottom that aren't getting incorporated, then you're going to get a weird mixture. So I always recommend kind of taking a moment in between the process, just scraping everything down. We'll lock this back into place. We'll let it go for just a moment more because, as you can see, it is certainly lighter and fluffier, so we're getting precisely where we want to be, but we'll just give that another moment or two. Okay, so this is looking great. We'll just do the same exact thing because now we are going to add in some additional ingredients. So we'll just scrape this down a little bit more. Now we're just going to incorporate a couple ingredients. So we'll have that in there. We'll scrape all of this goodness back into our bowl. We've got now a 1/4 cup of molasses. So we'll go ahead and take care of that first. We've got our 1/4 cup right there. That's just gonna go right into the bowl. All right, and we're going to just mix that to incorporate it. So you can go on a low speed for that. And then in the meantime, we have just 1 egg at room temperature. So all of our ingredients here are going to be at room temperature. This also helps everything incorporate really nicely and evenly. Sometimes if you have a cold ingredient and you put it into something that's room temperature, especially like a fat like butter, it's going to seize that up, and that's not what we want. So we've got the molasses beautifully incorporated here, so that's great. We'll go ahead, We'll add our egg in. Perfect. And then again, we're just going to make sure that it's incorporated. We don't want to go full speed and whip it. Okay, so this is looking pretty great. But of course, we have to take the advice that I've been giving. We've got to scrape everything down. Just want to make sure, again, that all of our ingredients are perfectly incorporated. Since this paddle attachment is far better of a mixer than I am. So let's just give it a few rotations. Now we can leave this like this, no problem. I have some dry ingredients now that we're going to gradually add in there. So I have 2 1/4 cups of all-purpose flour. You're going to want to spoon level that. So it's the opposite of what we were doing with our brown sugar and packing it. You literally take a spoon or a measuring cup, whatever you have, and kind of gently put that into your cup so that it still remains light and fluffy. You can also weigh out the ingredients too if that's easier, but if you don't have a scale, that's how you do it. In here I also have a 1/4 teaspoon of salt, and I have 1.5 teaspoons of baking soda. Also, for the whole ginger component, I make a gingerbread mix, and what that is it's kind of like I guess, what is it? 3 parts ginger, 2 parts cinnamon, 1 part cloves. And then I have about a tablespoon plus, so a tablespoon plus 1/4 of a teaspoon, I guess. This is the part where it really is not a huge science there. It's really more for taste. So I did a generous tablespoon of that. So we're going to add this into a bowl first so that we can whisk all of those ingredients together so that they're nicely combined. So we do not have to sift this necessarily. This is going to be just fine, but we just want to make sure that everything kind of gets just nicely incorporated in there. So we're going to add this in a few different rounds. We do not want to add everything at once, then we're just going to get a lot of flour everywhere. All right, now let's just start adding a little bit at a time. And this is just the part where you just need to be a little bit patient because trust me, if you do too much, you're gonna have a mess and then you're gonna need to clean that up, and then none of that was worth it. And each time you just want to kind of mix it until everything is incorporated. We don't want to ever over mix. We are using gluten, so the more that you mix, the chewier it's going to get. And we actually do want this to be a bit of a chewy cookie, but like not too much. So we just want to do it until everything is just nicely incorporated and you don't see any more flour left. Right, we probably have another couple rounds to go. All right, this seems to be our last one, and already I'm smelling that ginger and molasses, and it smells amazing. These cookies are so easy to make, and they're one of my favorites. I know that's not like technically a normal thing, patting down the bowl, but actually I find that kind of tapping the sides of it and letting that flour that's captured around the edges and getting in there is like the easiest thing. So don't be afraid to do that. So everything looks beautiful. We're just going to go ahead and scrape everything down from our paddle attachment. And if this wants to release, that would be great. And then you'll see too, there is still some flour, so that we can just hand mix in, that's no problem. What we're going to do next is refrigerate this for at least an hour. So you can leave it in the bowl, no problem. I would suggest putting a piece of cling wrap or saran wrap on top of that. Pop it in the fridge for at least an hour. You can also do this, you know, a day or two in advance and let it, you know, chill that way too. So go ahead and pop that into the fridge, and then we will return with our next step. Okay, so our dough has chilled now for a little over an hour, so we are ready to get that prepared and get that baked off. So let's go ahead and portion these out. I love these little cookie scoops. I think they are brilliant. If you do not have one of these, I would say about a tablespoon is the size that you'll do. So it's great. We can see that the dough has firmed up a little bit, but it's not solid. So we'll just get the portion of that, and then we're going to roll it into just some regular white sugar, regular granulated sugar. So you'll just roll that into there just so everything's coated, and you'll maintain that kind of ball shape. You don't need to press it down or anything like that. And you want to spread them out a few inches apart. They will spread a bit, so just give them some room to do that. So I would recommend starting, you know, conservatively and doing like 6 per sheet would be great. That way it's just kind of foolproof. So we'll roll a couple more of these. All right, perfect. So we've got our 6 cookies evenly spaced apart here. We've got our oven preheated to 350 degrees. We're going to bake these for about 12 minutes. Again, depends on your oven. So if you want to start a little bit on the lower side, just give them a check. When they're baking, they're going to spread a bit and also have a really nice crackle on the top. So if you see that, that's good. That's what you want. So don't get worried, but we're going to go ahead and pop these into the oven now. Okay, so we've got our cookies baking in the oven. So in the meantime, let's go ahead and make this amazing Inji Puli buttercream frosting. So we've got, again, room temperature butter. So I have, in fact, this variation of this buttercream is actually vegan. So I have vegan butter. So you can either do a half a cup, 1 stick, you know, or about 4 ounces, however you're measuring it out, whatever type of container it comes in. That's just going to go straight into our bowl. Again, I've got a paddle attachment onto my stand mixer. We've got 2 cups of powdered sugar, and this we're definitely going to want to sift in. So got my sifter here, and here you just need a little bit of patience as well, because sometimes it can take a minute just to get that all sifted in there. But so crucial, because powdered sugar often has those clumps, and you do not want that in your frosting. So we want it nice and silky and smooth. So we're just going to take a moment to do this. Okay, that was a workout. So like I said, it takes a minute, but you can see here, like, after you're all covered in powdered sugar already, it's great. You'll smell sweet. It's no problem. How beautiful and fluffy that is. So we're going to go ahead and lock that into the stand mixer, and slowly okay, so your buttercream's going to look a little bit crumbly. It's not going to fully come together like buttercream unless you add something wet to that. So if you're not doing any kind of vegan variety, just regular milk is perfect. If you are making this vegan, I recommend using coconut milk. I just find that the taste and the consistency is a lot better than some of the other types, like a soy or an oat milk. It also, yeah, I just think that the flavor just goes a lot nicer. So we're just going to add a couple tablespoons in total typically, but we'll just add 1 at a time, and you check your consistency. So that's 1 in. And already you can see a world of difference with all of those ingredients coming together. It's still quite thick. We're gonna let it work its magic a little bit before we turn it up to really whip it into perfection. But we'll go ahead and turn that up and just see how it comes together. So this looks really, really beautiful, but it is a little bit on the thicker side. So I'm just gonna want to add in just a little bit more. Let's do like a half a tablespoon. The great thing about buttercream too is that it's so forgiving. So if you add more liquid than you need and it's a little bit runny, you just add in more powdered sugar to balance it and vice versa. So it's the simplest of buttercreams that are out there. So, you know, it's great. You can't lose. All right, so this is so light, so fluffy, so beautiful. So I think that we are all set with our milk. I do not believe that we need any more in there, but to make this as special as it needs to be, it's time to add in our Inji Puli. So we're going to do about a tablespoon and a half in there. And again, you know, this is the kind of thing where you can really do it to taste. So if you want it more mild, add less. It's not a large amount, so it's really not going to affect the texture so much. But like I said, if it's a little bit too much on the runny side, add a little bit more powdered sugar. If it's a little too stiff, then just add some more milk. So we'll start with a tablespoon in there first, and then a little extra to make it a half. And then we'll just mix that in to incorporate. All right, so it's so beautiful. Let's make sure that we scrape everything down so that it's all fully incorporated. Let's get all of this off of our paddle attachment and remove that. Put that off to the side. And we can actually keep this locked in, that's okay. But we'll just scrape that all down. We are good to put this into a piping bag. And when it comes to cutting the end of it, really you don't want to go too small. We're going to be piping this, you know, inside the cookie to kind of make like a sandwich cookie. So I would say about maybe an inch up from the bag. It's really an eyeball thing. I would say start on the smaller side first. That way you can always cut more if you need. If you cut too much, well then you will just have to make do. But it's not that big of a deal. So we're gonna cut about that much. And that'll be great. And we will set this aside for now. Just room temperature is perfect. If you have extra, you can pop it into the fridge, you know, for a number of days, a couple of weeks even. And then before you want to use it, just let it get back down to room temperature, which shouldn't happen, you know, which should happen within a reasonable amount of time. But if you use it all at once, wonderful. So we'll put this aside until our cookies are ready and cooled. Do not put buttercream on hot or warm items. It will just melt. So be patient, but we have this set and we'll wait until our cookies cool till we put it on. So our cookies are out of the oven, perfectly cooled, ready for our buttercream frosting that we made with the Inji Puli. So nothing left to do but to make them into little cookie sandwiches. And we're just going to take one cookie, we'll flip it over so that that flat side is ready for the buttercream. And then we'll just pipe this right on. And just make sure we got a nice even coat there. You can get as generous as you want, but we'll just top that off. So we've got one, we're gonna make more, but you can see how adorable this is. And take a bite. You might want to eat these in private because it's not maybe the most glamorous thing to eat, but you could also take it apart or put the frosting in a little cup and dip the cookies in if you want to be more chic about it. But however you slice it, these are delicious. The cookies are going to be softer and chewier, so it's not going to be too crispy to bite into. But the ginger and the molasses with this buttercream, with that ginger tamarind jam is like to die for. So if you're looking for something that has that wonderful spice, it's not too sweet, but you want to satisfy that sweet tooth, I highly recommend this. So again, thank you so much to Atina Foods for sending this amazing Inji Puli. It is phenomenal. You can also use it for savory recipes also. But if you make these, I hope you enjoy, and I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll catch you guys next time.